So it says a ship leaves the port of Miami with a bearing of south 80 degrees east. So I'm going to draw a compass. Never eat soggy waffles. So this here is Miami. Okay. And it's leaving at a bearing of south 80 degrees east. So that means that it's going this direction. And this angle is 80 degrees. That green angle is 80 degrees. Do we understand? Southeast is in between the South Pole and the East Pole. Okay, so then it says it's going at a speed of 15 knots. So knots is kind of like miles, but when you're talking about sea, they say knots. Okay, and I probably wouldn't understand that either. I wouldn't know that. So after 1 hour, so if it's going 15 knots an hour, that means that after traveling 15 knots, okay, the ship turns 90 degrees toward the south. So then it's going to turn 90 degrees and it's going this way towards the south. After 2 hours of maintaining the same speed. So 2 hours, if it's going at 15 knots per hour, that means 2 hours would be how many knots? 30. So we're going to put a 30. It's asking us what is the bearing to the ship from the port. So from here going here, it's asking us for, what it's asking us for is this angle right here. This is what it's asking us for. Now, before we can find this piece, this slice of the pie, we need to figure out what is this slice of the pie, which is in blue.
So the 30 knots doesn't go all the way to the south now?
No, because it didn't make it all the way to the south. It was sailing towards the south, but it didn't make it there. So what trig ratio am I going to use? Sine, cosine, or tangent? Tangent. Because I know that the tangent of x, or I'll say theta, is going to equal opposite over adjacent. So that angle is going to be the inverse tangent, and then 30 divided by 15 is 2. So go ahead and type that in your calculator. And you don't have to make it 30 divided by 15. Make it 2. You can keep it 30 over 15, but we can all agree that 30 divided by 15 is 2. So we're taking the inverse tangent of 2. And we'll go to the 10th place. And what did you all get to the 10th place? 63.4 degrees. Yep. Who agrees with that? Okay. But that's not a bearing. So what we figured out was this angle. But what they want us to know is this angle. How am I going to find the red piece? Subtract. And what am I going to subtract the 63.4 from? 80. So 80 minus 63.4, I believe is 16.6. Make sure though.
And whenever you're doing bearings, you always have to do north, south, or whatever. Right.
Now the way this is worded is also very strange, because it's asking you for the bearing to the ship from the port. So if I'm going from here to here, it didn't ask for the bearing of the ship because the ship is right here. It didn't ask what direction it would travel if it went back to the port, because going back to the port, it would go northwest. What it's asking is what would be the direction if, let's say, at the port they had to send a rescue. What direction would the rescue have to go if they left the port and headed towards the ship?
Southeast.
And so it's southeast. Southeast. All right, any questions? That was a hard one. I didn't expect anybody to understand, first of all, what is a knot, because we don't think in terms of knots and sea and all that stuff. All right, so now we're going to start 8.2 in your notes. 8.2 is the law of sines. Now, after today, you will be able to do all of the questions except for these 3. Now, homework 14, yeah. So you will be able to do all of the questions except for 28, 32, and 34 today. So what we're going to talk about is the law of sines. And law of sines is when it's not a right triangle. This is when it's not a right triangle. So now we're looking at triangles that don't have a 90-degree angle. They could be obtuse triangles, they can be acute triangle, but they are not right triangles. Because they're not right triangles, then a lot of the pieces that we use in 8.1, because 8.1 was all right triangles. Because this is not a right triangle, we cannot use Pythagorean theorem. We also cannot use SOHCAHTOA. Because a right triangle, only a right triangle has a hypotenuse. If it's not a right triangle, we don't have a hypotenuse. So this is out the door. So now what we're going to learn is the law of sines. The law of sines can be used with any type of triangle, including a right triangle. It can be used for anything. The one thing you have to know is a pair. And by pair, I mean you have to know an angle and opposite side for this law. Now, after spring break, we're going to talk about a different law, which is the law of cosines. But for now, we're just going to focus in on the law of sines. So, law of sines, you have to have a pair. I have to know big A, little a, or big B, little b, or big C, little c. One pair. All right, so let's go ahead and look at number 1. So we got our triangle SRT. So I'm going to label it SRT. Let's go ahead and fill in what we know. We know that S is 51. We know R is 63. And we know little r is 13. And they want us to solve the triangle, which means they want us to find the length of, well, the measure of angle T, the length of side T, and the length of little s. So does everyone see how we have a pair? What do we have a pair of? R. So because we have this and this, we can use the law of sines. So we're going to set this up. I'm going to take the sine of big R over little r equals, and then I'm just going to find S first, because I can't find T. And the reason why I have to find S is because, well, we can easily find angle T. I should have probably, let's go back. Let's find big T. How am I going to find big T? Triangle sum. So we can still do that. So let's do that. So big T is equal to 180 minus 63 minus 51. Go ahead, use your calculators and find angle T. That's the only thing that's going to carry over from 8.1 is triangle sum. Triangle sum applies no matter what. The angles inside of a triangle add to 180. So did you all get 66? All right, so now we have big T. So now in order to find, I'm going to find S first, little s. So if I'm looking for little s, then I have to put the sign of big S in the numerator. And then little s is at the bottom. And I know an S looks like a 5, so just be careful to make sure your S's and 5 don't look alike. So now we're going to cross multiply and solve this because it's a proportion. That's all it is a proportion. So if I go this direction, I would have S times the sine of 63. And then if I go this direction, that equals 13 sine 51. Divide both sides by the sine of 63. And then we find that little s equals 13 sine 51 divided by sine 63. Go ahead, type that in your calculator. And then I'm pretty sure your notes say thousandths place. So 3 numbers after the decimal. So, did you get 11.339?
Yes.
All right, good. So now to find little t, I have to do very similar. I'm going to keep with big R, little r. But now that you know little s, you could technically use big S, little s in your proportion. But I like to stick with what I know. So I'm going to stick with big R, sine of 63 over little r. And that's going to equal the sine of angle T, which we figured out is 66 over little t. Go ahead and cross multiply and solve that for little t. So you should end up with 13 sine 66 over sine 63. Type that in your calculator. Yeah, I think it says to the thousandths place for everything. So we'll just do everything from here on out, three digits. And you should get 13.329. Any questions about that? Yes, Lyric. So I didn't show my work, but you would cross multiply just like we did in this example. I cross multiplied, and then you end up dividing by the sine of 63. All right, let's look at example 2. All right, so we have triangle ABC. So big A is 35. And then big B is 15. And little c is 5. So notice that they did not give us a pair. But the only side we know is little c. So we have to start by finding big C. And we can find big C very easily. C is going to equal 180 minus 35 minus 15. You should get 130 degrees. Who got 130? So now that I know that, I have a big angle. I have an angle and a side. So I can use these two and use it for the law signs. So let's start by finding little a. I always go alphabetical order. You don't have to. So to find little a, I'm going to take the sine of big C. Oh, I put 135. Sorry, that should be 130. Sorry about that. So I'm going to take the sine of big C over little c. And that's going to equal the sine of, since I'm going to find little a first, I'm going to use 35 over little a. So I'll show my work this time. So this is a proportion, so we're cross multiplying. So you go this direction. That would be a times the sine of 130 equals, and then you go this direction, 5 times the sine of 35. And then we have to divide both sides by the sine of 30, sine of 130. So A is going to equal, go ahead and type that in your calculator. Yes.
Did we only use the sine of C because it was the only one that had sine or side?
Yeah, because you have to have an angle side for the law signs. And I didn't know little a or little b, so I had to start with sine C over little c. So we get, I got 3.744 when I worked this out last year. Is that what you all got? All right. So now let's find little b. So in order to find little b, I'm going to stick with big C and little c. So I'm going to take the sine of big C over little c. This time I'm trying to find little b. So what am I going to put on top? Sine of what? 15. Go ahead, cross multiply and solve that.
Will either equation give you the exact same answer, or is like?
You mean if you used big A and little a? Yeah, you should get close. It won't be exactly the same, but it'll be close. Like it should be close to 1.6.
Yeah.
Any questions? All right, do example 3 on your own. I'm going to come around, check your answers. When you have all 3 answers, raise your hand and I will check them for you. Oh, so you're not finished?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't put the 15 or the 15.
Right, yeah, so after you cross multiply, yeah, you have to divide it. That's not your answer. So keep going, keep working out to show, find your answer. Yes. Yes. Yes.
You literally copied me and saw it. I picked that. No, you haven't. I saw you look at my right. What time is this? What's about? That was a good one. You got it right.
But you don't know this side though. You don't know, so you can't use the 70 and the 13.
It's 70, 23, 49.
What goes with the 13? What's opposite of the 13?
Maybe you simply don't check.
Looks good. Looks good.
You ready to say the other one? Crucial. You can't do this? Like what? Nah, you slow, girl. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Are we doing example 4?
Yeah, we're gonna go through that together. And then that'll be it for today. But let's go ahead real quick because about a big chunk of you all kind of struggled through this one. So let's talk about it. So we have C, A, T. I know C is 10. And then they told us A is 100. And they told us little c is 13. So the first thing you need to do is solve for angle T, which if you do triangle sum, you get 70. So then to find little a, it would be sine of 10 over 13 equals sine of 100 over a. So cross multiply. So that would be a times the sine of 10 equals, so this is just a proportion. Divide both sides by the sine of 10. And that's how you get 73.727. And then you're going to do something similar to that to find t, except when you're finding little t, you're going to set it up sine of 10 over 13 equals sine of t, which we figured out was 70 over little t. And the process is the same. It's a proportion. These are proportions. Any questions? Yes.
You said we could use this to find a right triangle.
You could, yeah. So you would have 90, sine of 90 degrees, which I don't know if y'all remember from the unit circle. I know we're not talking about that no more, right? Okay, but
Sine of 90 degrees is 0.
is 1. 1. So it would be 1 divided by something. So, yeah. Okay, last one. So we have 2 ships that are 250 feet apart, traveling to the same port. We need to find the distance to each port. So I'm going to call this side X. I'm going to put an X here. And I'm going to put a Y here. So I only know one distance, which is 250. I need to know the angle at the port. And how do I find the angle at the port? 180. So take 180 minus 39 minus 41. And that should give you 100. So you're going to set up your two proportions. So you will have sine of 100 over 250. That's going to equal, if I'm trying to find x, what would I put at the top? Sine of what? 41. So it's a proportion. You cross multiply it. For the second one, I have sine of 100 over 250. And then what would I put on top? If I'm trying to find y, it would be sine of what? 39. Go ahead and solve them both. Find x and y. Okay, so for little x, what did you all get for little x? 166, about, did it tell you where to round? So we'll just say once, did it say thousands place?
Yeah.
Okay. And then it said thousands place? Okay. Oh, it's not showing. So you got 166.545 for little x, and then for little y, did you get 159.757? Okay, so it's asking us what ship is closer. Is ship A closer to the port, or is ship B closer to the port? So we said that this is, we figured out that this distance is about 167. And then we figured out that this distance is about 160. So the closest one would be ship B. No, I agree, but we weren't getting a consistent answer. So that's why I went through it. Okay.